In a kingdom floating above the clouds, a powerful princess rejected every suitor for 10 years. Warriors, princes, even kings had all turned away. But when a stranger crashes from the stars, everything changes. He has no army, no crown, and yet he looks her in the eye and says the one thing no one ever dared. Now, with the fate of the kingdom at risk, he must survive ancient trials that no outsider has ever lived through. The question is, why did the wind choose him? If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking this video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The wind never stopped moving in Kelvera. Above the clouds, the floating kingdom rested on wide silver platforms held by the breath of the sky itself. Tall towers shimmered with blue crystal. Gardens hung from the edges like vines reaching for the stars. And in the heart of it all stood the Sky Palace, where the Princess of Kelvera watched the world from behind glass walls. Her name was Lion. She was born under the quiet stars, raised with the songs of wind and wisdom. She was not loud like her cousins, not bold like the warriors. She was calm, steady, and silent. People said the sky listened when she walked. Her eyes were a pale silver, her hair dark like the night after a storm. She was the daughter of Queen Nalis, the ruler of the airborne kingdom and the one chosen to lead it one day. But Lian had a secret. For 5 years, suitors from every realm had traveled to Kelvera. They brought golden rings, crystal swords, promises of peace, and kingdoms of wealth. They came to win her hand, to join their name with hers. And every time Lion said no. Some said she was too proud. Others said she would never marry. But none of them understood. Lion was not waiting for perfection. She was waiting for truth. On the morning of the bonding ceremony, the sky was full of color. Floating ships from distant lands hovered in silence above the palace. Drums echoed across the air as nobles in long robes gathered in the Hall of Stars. The queen stood on the highest platform, her silver crown glowing under the twin suns. Beside her sat Lion, dressed in soft blue, her face unreadable. The queen raised a hand. "Let the suitors be called," she said gently, and one by one they came. Princes, generals, sons of rich traders. Each one bowed, spoke well-practiced words, and offered gifts shaped to impress. Lion listened, nodded, and politely refused. Her voice was soft, but her meaning was clear. "You speak of power," she told one. "You speak of yourself," she told another. "But none of you speak of who I am." The queen's smile faded with each rejection. Her advisors shifted nervously. The air felt heavy, as if the wind itself was unsure. Then a guard rushed into the hall, his face pale. "Your Grace," he said, kneeling, "we found a craft in the cliffs below the North Tower. It crashed during the night. There was one survivor." The queen stepped forward. "What kind?" The guard looked around, then answered, "Human." A long silence filled the room. Humans were rare in the high skies. Kelvera had traded with ground cities before, but a human here, alone and injured, was something strange. "Why bring this to the court?" the queen asked. "He refused to speak to anyone," said the guard. "But he asked for the princess. He knew her name." Lion stood. "Bring him." Her voice held no fear. Her mother hesitated but gave a nod. A few minutes later, 2 guards returned with a figure between them. His clothes were torn and he limped slightly. His skin was earth-toned, his hair messy, his hands bound loosely, but his eyes were steady, deep brown and calm. He looked at Lion, not the queen, not the crowd, just her. "What is your name?" she asked. "Rain," he replied. "You crashed on my land," she said. "I didn't crash," he answered. "I was sent away, but in falling I found something I didn't know I needed." The court scoffed. Someone laughed. Others whispered, "Fool," under their breath. Rayan didn't react. "And what did you find?" Lion asked. His answer was simple. "You." Gasps echoed. Even the queen's lips parted. Lion stepped down from her platform, walking slowly toward him. The guards moved to stop her, but she waved them away. "You speak boldly," she said. I speak truly, Ran replied. I have heard stories of you. That your voice is soft but your heart is steel. That no one has made you smile in years. I don't believe that means your heart is cold. I think it means no one ever saw it properly. They were close now, only steps apart. You think you know me? She asked. No, Ran said. But I would like to. And there it was. A stillness that filled the entire room. The wind slowed. The torches flickered. Lion looked at him. Really looked. This human had no crown, no sword, no great family name. But he stood with calm strength. Not the kind built on pride, but the kind shaped by something deeper. Truth, perhaps. Leave us, she said suddenly. The guards looked to the queen, who said nothing. Now, Lion said again. And slowly the hall emptied. Noble feet hurried over marble floors. Whispers died. Soon only two remained. Rain, and the princess of the silent wind. She took another step forward. Why did you ask? For me? She said, her voice quieter now. Rain looked at her, his face open, his eyes full of peace. Because I've seen many skies, he said, but none that made me stop flying. Until now, and for the first time in years, Princess Lion smiled. Days passed, but the story of the human did not fade. Rayan, the quiet stranger from the world below, had been given a room in the high palace. It was not grand like the others. There were no glowing stones, no velvet pillows, no golden mirrors, just a bed, a window, and a table. Yet Rayan did not complain. He sat by the window each morning, watching the sky as the twin suns rose over the clouds. Outside his room, the palace buzzed with whispers. Nobles frowned as they walked past his door. Guards stood with extra care. Even the servants spoke of him in hushed voices. Why is he here? What does he want? How can a human stand in the sky palace? Rayan said little. But Princess Lion visited often. She didn't bring gifts. She didn't ask him to bow. Instead, she asked questions. Why did you speak to me like that? She asked one evening. They stood on a high balcony, where the wind was cool and stars blinked above them like soft lanterns. Because you are not just a title, Rayan said. You are a person. People forget that when they kneel. Lion looked away, unsure what to say. She was used to respect, to distance, to people lowering their eyes. But not to someone who simply stood beside her and spoke as an equal. Many think I'm cold, she said. You are not, Rayan replied. You're careful. She looked at him. And how would you know that? He smiled, just a little. Because I know what it feels like to be seen, but not understood. That night, Lion could not sleep. She thought of all the suitors before him. Men who brought gold and glory, who bent their knees and spoke sweet lies. They called her beautiful, powerful, rare. But none of them ever asked what she wanted. None of them saw the silence behind her eyes. Rayan had no kingdom, no army. And yet, she listened when he spoke. The next day, trouble came. A servant named Relin fell ill after tasting food meant for the human. His hands shook. His skin turned pale. He dropped to the floor outside Rayan's door. The healer arrived just in time. Poison, they said. A slow one, hidden in sweetness. The palace was in shock. Lion's calm broke like glass. Her voice echoed through the marble halls. Who did this? She demanded. Who dares poison a guest under my protection? But no one answered. The nobles looked away. The guards said nothing. Queen Nalis sat on her throne, her face unreadable. He should not have been here, someone muttered. Lion turned sharply. He showed me more honor than any of you, the queen finally spoke. Then let him prove it. The room froze. What do you mean? Lion asked, though she already knew. The trials, the queen said. The ancient law of our people. If he is to remain in our sky, he must face them. The trials were feared across Kelvera. They were not games or tests. They were paths carved by pain and truth. Made for warriors, not for outsiders. Never for a human, Rayan heard the decision calmly. He was sitting near the edge of the high garden, watching the sky birds fly between the towers. Lion stood beside him, her face full of worry. "You don't have to do this," she said. "Yes," Rayan replied. "I do." "They want you to fail," she said. "They want a reason to send you away." "Then I must give them none." Lion looked at him and her heart ached. "You don't need to prove anything to me," she whispered. Rayan turned to her. "I'm not doing this to earn you," he said. "I'm doing this to earn my place." That night, the palace was silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Rayan sat alone in his room, staring out into the stars. He did not fear the trials. What he feared was leaving without knowing what could have been. In another part of the palace, Queen Naila stood in her private chamber. She stared at the painting of her late husband, the one who once dared to love her without rules. She remembered how strong she had become, but also how lonely. She thought of Lion now, walking a path that she had once feared to take. "Perhaps," the queen whispered to the wind, "the sky chooses its own." As the night deepened, Lion stood outside Rayan's room, her hand raised to knock. She lowered it once, twice, afraid of what he might say. Then she knocked. Rayan opened the door. His eyes were tired, but calm. "You should rest," she said. "I was," he replied, "until you came." She stepped in. His room was plain but peaceful. It reminded her of the world below the clouds. Simple, still, real. "You understand the danger?" she asked. He nodded. "Then why do it?" she asked. "Because this sky gave me a chance to find something honest, and I won't let fear take that from me." She looked at him and saw no armor, no mask, just a man who stood taller than any suitor before. Then he reached for her hand. Not as a ruler, not as a prize, just as a person. "Then don't let go," she said. The trial would begin at dawn. The morning came heavy with silence. As the first light touched the floating peaks of Calvera, the kingdom held its breath. Birds did not sing. Banners did not fly. The sky palace stood still as the trial of the human began. Rayan walked through the wide gates of the arena, wearing only plain robes and a quiet look. His hands were steady, but his steps carried the weight of something deeper than fear. He had no weapon, no armor, only the eyes of thousands watching him. Above the stone arena, noble families stood on high platforms, dressed in silver and blue. Some whispered prayers. Others whispered curses. They wanted him to fail. They wanted tradition to win. Many still believed a human did not belong in the skies. Princess Lion sat beside her mother, Queen Nalis, on the royal seat. She did not move. She did not speak. But her fingers dug into the arm of her chair, knuckles white with worry. The judge stepped forward, his voice loud and clear. "Trial 1, he said, "the test of strength." From the dark gate at the far end of the arena, a heavy sound began. It was slow at first, like thunder far away. Then it grew louder. Claws scratched against stone. A roar ripped through the air. A beast stepped into the arena. 6 legs. Black, skin like melted glass, eyes glowing red. It was a windclaw, one of the most feared trial beasts of the high realm, made for war, born in fire. It had crushed full-grown warriors in moments. Rayan did not flinch. The beast charged. Its roar shook the air. Rayan moved. He didn't fight it head-on. Instead, he rolled to the side, dodging its strike. Dust flew. Stone cracked where the beast had landed. The crowd gasped. But Rayan stood again. Over and over, the beast attacked. Over and over, Rayan dodged. Sometimes it grazed him. Once it threw him across the arena. He landed hard. Blood marked his sleeve. But he stood again. He did not fight with muscle. He fought with movement. With will. An hour passed. The beast slowed. Its steps dragged. Its breathing grew heavy. Rayan stood in the center of the arena, sweat on his face, pain in his limbs, but fire in his eyes. The judge raised his hand. "Trial 1, he called out. "Passed." No cheers. Only stunned silence. Lion's breath finally escaped her lips. He survived, she whispered. But it was not over. The next day came the second trial, the trial of mind. In the deep hall of echoes, Rayan stood before 3 doors. Behind, each one lay a different path. One path tested memory, another tested logic. The last tested understanding of history. Only one would lead forward. The judge gave a simple riddle. One path speaks the truth. One path lies. One path is empty. Choose with care. Rayan closed his eyes. He remembered Lion speaking of her people, how they valued memory, how they built with silence, how truth came in listening, not just speaking. He placed his hand on the second door. This one, he said. Inside, he found an ancient machine. It glowed with light and spoke in an old voice. Answer this, it said. What can fill a room, but takes up no space? Rayan smiled. Light, he answered. The machine paused, then opened the next path. The trial of mind continued with symbols, shifting puzzles and sounds that tested balance and focus. Some Kelvern warriors had failed here, thinking strength was enough. Rayan passed each test with thought and calm. When he stepped out of the trial chamber, even the coldest noble blinked in disbelief. Trial 2, the judge said, passed. That night, Lion visited him. His arm was wrapped in cloth. His steps were slower. You're hurt, she said. I'm alive, he replied, and I am not done. She sat beside him. For a moment, they said nothing. Then she whispered, They never thought you would pass. Not one of them. I didn't come to prove them wrong, Rayan said. I came to prove to myself that I belong here. She looked at him closely. And do you? She asked. Not yet, he said, but I'm walking the path. On the 3rd day came the final trial, the trial of heart, no beast, no riddle. Only a bridge made of sky glass stretching between 2 towers. It shimmered with colors that changed with thought and feeling. Only those with a balanced spirit could cross. The unready would fall through illusions into the clouds. Below, Rayan stepped onto the bridge. The wind whispered doubts. You don't belong. You are alone. They will never accept you. He kept walking. He thought of his past, of the quiet village where he grew up, of being different, of always watching, always wondering. He thought of Lion, her silence, her strength, her smile, that had returned after years of being hidden. He stepped forward, eyes open, heart steady. The colors shifted beneath his feet, turning clear. He reached the other side. The judge looked at the sky, then at the court. Trial 3, he said, passed. For the first time, the crowd made a sound, soft at first, then growing, not shouts, not cheers, just the sound of people breathing again. Princess Lion stood. The queen stayed seated, her face thoughtful. The trials were complete. But the story was far from over. The sky over Kelvera was soft with light. The trials were finished. The clouds drifted quietly below the palace towers. Bells rang in the distance, but they were not loud. They were slow, thoughtful, almost like a heartbeat. The people of the floating kingdom were still trying to understand what had happened. Human had passed the sacred trials. No outsider had ever done that. No one from below the sky had ever stood where Rayan now stood. Inside the high court, nobles gathered in silence. Their robes shimmered, but their faces showed confusion, even worry. Some crossed their arms. Others whispered behind fans. Many still refused to speak his name. Queen Naelis sat on her crystal throne. Beside her, Princess Lion stood, her hands folded in front of her. She watched the wide doors at the end of the hall. She was waiting for him. And then the doors opened. Rayan walked in, wearing the same plain clothes he had worn since the beginning. His steps were slow but steady. There was a small scar on his cheek. His eyes were calm as always. He stopped before the throne, but he did not kneel. No one told him to. Queen Nalis looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were hard to read. Then she spoke. "You have done what no one believed possible," she said. "You faced our strength, our knowledge, and our spirit, and you did not break." Rain nodded once but said nothing. "You have earned the right to stay," the Queen continued. "But the question remains, should you?" A low murmur moved through the room. Lion stepped forward. "He belongs," she said, voice clear. "Not because of the trials, not because of the law, but because of the truth he carries." The Queen turned her head. "And what truth is that?" she asked. "That we have forgotten how to see with our hearts," Lion answered. The room went silent. "He never asked for power. He never asked for reward. He simply came here and showed us who he is. No mask, no pride. And in doing so, he showed me something I had never seen in anyone else." The Queen studied her daughter. Then she stood. "When I was young," the Queen said, "I too faced the wind of change. I feared it. And so I chose safety over truth. Now perhaps it is time to listen again." She looked at Ran. "The wind has chosen you, not by birth, not by name, but by spirit. The nobles did not cheer. They did not need to. Some lowered their heads, others stepped back, but none could deny what they had seen. Outside the hall, the people of Kelvera began to gather near the tower balconies. Word had spread. The human who had walked with calm steps had passed the final trial. Whispers turned to songs. Not loud ones, quiet ones, respectful ones. Later, that evening, Rayan sat alone on the balcony outside his small room. The stars were just beginning to appear. The wind moved through the gardens like a slow breath. Lion came to sit beside him. "You did it," she said. "I didn't do it alone," he replied. They sat in silence for a moment. "Do you ever wish you had never come here?" she asked. Rayan looked at her and smiled. "No," he said. "Even if I had failed, it would have been worth it. Because I saw something in you that made the whole journey matter." She looked at him, soft eyes reflecting starlight. "I never wanted someone to kneel," she said. "I wanted someone who would walk beside me." Rayan reached into his coat and pulled out a small bird made of folded paper. It was simple, nothing special. But he placed it in her hand gently. "In my home," he said, "we fold birds and set them free to carry our wishes." She smiled. "What does this one carry?" "Peace," he said. "For the sky, for the earth, for us." She held the bird for a long time. Then she stood. "Come," she said. "There is something you should see." They walked together up the spiral path of the eastern tower. At the top, where the wind was strongest, a platform of clear stone opened to the sky. Lion held out her hand. Rayan placed the bird in her palm. She let it go. The wind lifted it, spinning it high into the sky. The paper wings fluttered, then danced away into the stars. Down below, people watched from their homes. And though no words were spoken, everyone could feel the change. Not loud, not forced, just real. A choice had been made, not by law, not by fear, but by heart. And the sky would remember.